Professor Diana Morrison's hands trembled as Sheriff Bradley Tucker slammed her against the hood of her Lexus. His breath reeked of coffee and contempt. "You people think you can park wherever you want?" The words cut through the humid Georgia afternoon like a blade. This is one of those black stories that shouldn't happen in 2025, yet here we are. Real-life stories don't always follow the script we want them to. It was 3:47 p.m. on a Wednesday in Magnolia Springs Historic District. Diana had parked 18 feet from a fire hydrant. The legal minimum was 15 feet. She had measured. She always measured. Sheriff Tucker kicked her briefcase across the pavement. Columbia law letterhead scattered like leaves. He didn't even glance down. "I don't care what fancy papers you got. Have you ever been punished for a crime you didn't commit, while the evidence of your innocence lay scattered at your feet?" Diana reached into her car with deliberate slowness. Every movement calculated, every breath controlled. She produced a yellow tape measure from her glove compartment. "Sheriff, would you measure with me?" Tucker's face reddened. He was mid-50s, 28 years on the force, 3 complaints dismissed in the past year alone. His badge caught the afternoon sun. "I don't need to measure nothing. I know a violation when I see one." Diana extended the tape measure anyway. From her rear tire to the hydrant. 18 feet. 3 inches beyond that. She held it taut so Tucker could see. So the growing crowd could see. So the phones recording from the sidewalk could see. She pulled out her phone with her free hand, scrolled to the city ordinance, turned the screen toward Tucker. "Section 19304B, 15 feet minimum." Tucker's jaw clenched. His partner, Deputy Chen, shifted his weight behind him. Chen was younger, maybe 30, and his hand moved to his own phone. He checked something. His expression changed. "You calling me a liar?" Tucker stepped closer. "That's obstruction." "I'm not calling you anything. The tape measure is calling you mistaken." The words hung in the air. Too calm. Too precise. Tucker's hand moved to his radio. "Smart mouth's gonna get you more than a ticket, sweetheart." He called for backup. His voice carried across the street. Hostile, non-compliant. Those words. Diana had heard them in case files, in depositions, in courtrooms where officers explained why they escalated force. The language was a tell, a red flag, a preview. "I've shown you compliance," Diana said. "I've shown you the law. What I haven't shown you is fear." Tucker heard it as a threat. Or maybe he chose to hear it that way. His hand was already reaching for his handcuffs. "You're under arrest. Threatening an officer." The cuffs went on. Diana didn't resist. She let her wrists come together behind her back. Let the metal bite into her skin. She knew what resistance looked like on a police report. She knew what juries believed. The crowd grew. 15 people. 20. Mostly white retirees with shopping bags from the boutiques that lined Main Street. One woman, silver hair and pearls, leaned toward Diana. "Just do what he says, honey. Don't make it worse." From across the street, James Crawford unlocked his phone. He was 63, owned the antique store on the corner, and he'd lived in Magnolia Springs his entire life. He'd seen this before. Different faces. Same script. He started a live stream. "Y'all seeing this?" Diana's briefcase lay open on the sidewalk, its contents visible to anyone who cared to look. A Columbia Law School faculty ID that wouldn't expire until 2026. A Georgia Bar Association card. Member since 2009. An invitation to the Governor's Task Force on Criminal Justice Reform. Embossed letterhead. A business card had landed face up near Tucker's boot. Diana Morrison. J. D. Professor of constitutional law, Tucker saw none of it. Or he saw it and dismissed it. The distinction didn't matter. He was committed now. Deputy Chen bent down, picked up some of the papers. His eyes moved across the governor's letterhead. He straightened slowly. Brad, maybe you should remember who's in charge. They placed Diana in the back of the squad car. She sat perfectly still, hands cuffed, back straight, eyes forward. Through the window, she watched Tucker address the crowd. Show's over. This is what happens when people don't respect law enforcement. James kept filming. His viewer count climbed. 47 people watching. 93, 126. Ain't no show. Sheriff, this is a documentary. Diana's phone buzzed in the front seat where Tucker had placed it. The screen lit up with each incoming call. Contact names scrolled past. Dean Robertson, Senator Hayes, Professor Williams. Each notification a clue Tucker would never see. Her car registration was visible through the window. Leased through Columbia University Faculty Services. New York plates. A bumper sticker partially obscured by Tucker's leg, CLS alumni leading voices in justice. She wore a Cartier tank watch. Subtle wealth. The kind that doesn't announce itself, but never lies about its origins. Her shoes were Ferragamo. Her briefcase was Toomey. None of it mattered to Tucker, or all of it mattered in exactly the wrong way. The squad car pulled away from the curb at 4:15 p.m. Diana watched the historic district recede through the rear window. The boutiques, the coffee shops, the people who'd watched her get arrested for a crime that never happened. She'd been in Magnolia Springs for 45 minutes. She'd come to meet a colleague at the university satellite campus. She'd parked legally. She'd followed every rule. And now she was in handcuffs. This is how it happens, she thought. This is how the system works when you're on the wrong side of it. When your credentials don't matter. When your education doesn't protect you. When the color of your skin is the only evidence that counts. She'd taught this. Constitutional law. Fourth Amendment protections. Probable cause. Qualified immunity. She'd written articles about it. Testified before legislative committees. Trained judges. And now she was living it. The irony wasn't lost on her. Neither was the opportunity. Because Diana Morrison didn't just teach constitutional law. She practiced it. She litigated it. And she'd been waiting for a case exactly like this one. She just hadn't expected to be the plaintiff. The Magnolia Springs Police Department occupied a brick building on Oak Street. Built in 1987. Renovated never. The processing desk was staffed by Sergeant Marla Hendricks, a black woman with 20 years on the force and eyes that had seen everything twice. She looked up when Tucker brought Diana in. Her eyebrows rose. Tucker slid the paperwork across the desk. Parking violation, obstruction, threatening an officer. Hendricks read slowly. Her eyes moved from the report to Diana to Tucker. Back to the report. Brad, you measured the distance? Didn't need to. Clear violation. That's not how probable cause works. Tucker's neck reddened. You questioning my judgment, Marla? The room went quiet. Diana stood between them, hands still cuffed, watching the power dynamics play out like a case study from her seminar. Hendricks set down the paperwork. She gets a phone call. Brad. Constitutional right. She'll get her call when I say so. She gets it now. That's not optional. Tucker stormed toward the holding area. Hendricks unlocked Diana's handcuffs, rubbed her wrists where the metal had pressed, led her to the phone on the wall. Make it count, Hendricks said quietly. Diana dialed from memory. The call connected after 2 rings. Dean Robertson's office. Sarah, it's Diana. I need to speak with Patrick. A pause. Professor Morrison, are you... We've been trying to reach you. There's a video. I know. Put Patrick on. Another pause. Then Dean Patrick Robertson's voice filled the line. Concern mixed with disbelief. Diana, what the hell happened? Magnolia Springs. Sheriff Tucker. Yes, that Sheriff Tucker. She glanced at Hendricks. No, let it play out. Document everything. She hung up at 4:38 p.m. By 4:45 p.m., James Crawford's live stream had 847 concurrent viewers. The number climbed as people shared the link. Twitter, Facebook, Reddit. The video showed everything. The measurement, the arrest, Tucker's words about "you people," Diana's calm, the scattered legal documents. Comments flooded in. That's Professor Morrison from the Netflix documentary. She literally wrote the textbook on police misconduct litigation. Tucker just arrested the woman who trains judges. Oh, this is about to get good. Local news picked it up by 5 p.m. Columbia law professor arrested in Magnolia Springs. The Chiron ran beneath shaky footage from James's phone. Tucker's Facebook page, public and unmoderated, began filling with comments. His friend count dropped. His review score plummeted. The mayor's office phone rang, and rang, and rang. 200 calls in 90 minutes. The receptionist stopped answering. Let them go to voicemail. The messages were all variations of the same theme. What the hell is happening in your town? Town Council member Elena Rodriguez called the sheriff's department at 6:17 p.m. Hendricks answered. Is Diana Morrison still in custody? Yes, ma'am. Sheriff's insisting on holding her. Get the mayor. Now. Mayor Beth Cunningham arrived at 6:45 p.m. She was 51, third term, former prosecutor. She'd known Tucker for 15 years. She walked past the front desk, straight to Tucker's office. Didn't knock. Release her. Tucker looked up from his computer. He'd been reading the comments. His face was stone. I'm not letting some outsider walk because she's got fancy credentials. She's not an outsider. She's a U.S. citizen with rights you're violating. I'm protecting this town from people who think rules don't apply to them. Cunningham closed the door, leaned against it. Brad, I've known you a long time, so I'm going to say this once. You made a mistake. Own it. Fix it. Move on. I didn't make a mistake. You arrested a woman for parking 18 feet from a hydrant when the law says 15. I had public works measure. They confirmed it. You were wrong. I was doing my job. No. You were doing something else. She pulled out her phone, showed him the video. This is what it looks like, Brad. This is what everyone sees. And they're not seeing a sheriff protecting his town. They're seeing something uglier than that. Tucker stood. Get out of my office. Release her tonight or I'll do it myself. You don't have that authority. Try me. They stood 3 feet apart. 15 years of professional courtesy evaporating in real time. Cunningham left first, but she didn't leave the building. At 7:15 p.m., Diana made another request. I'd like to post bail. Tucker appeared from his office. Bail is $5,000. The room went silent. $5,000 for a parking violation. For obstruction. For words Tucker claimed were threatening, but nobody else heard that way. That's absurd, Hendricks said. That's my decision. Diana didn't argue. She'd expected this. The banks were closed. She couldn't access that amount of cash tonight. She could call someone, wire it, but that would take time. Tucker knew it. This was deliberate. He wanted her to spend the night. wanted her to feel powerless, wanted her to break. "Then I'll need a vegetarian meal," Diana said, "and a mattress that accommodates my documented back condition." Tucker smiled. Not warmth. Cruelty. "This isn't a hotel." He denied both requests. Had Diana taken to a holding cell. 6 by 8 feet. Concrete bench. Metal toilet. Fluorescent light that hummed at a frequency designed to prevent sleep. Diana sat on the bench, closed her eyes, and smiled. Because Tucker had just made his second mistake of the day. The first was arresting her. The second was making it personal. Night fell on Magnolia Springs. The video kept spreading. The viewer count passed 1 million, 2 million. News outlets requested interviews. The ACLU issued a statement. The Southern Justice Coalition announced they were monitoring the situation. And in a holding cell in a small Georgia town, Professor Diana Morrison planned her next move. She'd spent 20 years teaching law students how to dismantle discriminatory systems, how to use data as a weapon, how to turn individual injustice into systemic reform. She'd written the playbook, published it, testified about it. Now she was going to demonstrate it. Tucker thought he'd won. Thought the night in jail would humble her, teach her a lesson, remind her of her place. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Diana had litigated against police departments in cities 50 times this size. She'd won settlements that changed policies, fired chiefs, reformed training programs. She didn't just teach constitutional law. She wielded it like a scalpel. Precise, surgical, devastating. And she was just getting started. At 11:47 p.m., she lay on the concrete bench, stared at the ceiling, and thought about Section 1983 of Title 42 of the United States Code, the federal statute that allows citizens to sue government officials for civil rights violations. She thought about Monell claims, municipal liability, pattern and practice, qualified immunity defenses and how to defeat them. She thought about discovery, depositions, subpoenas, expert witnesses, statistical analysis. She thought about every arrest Tucker had ever made, every citation, every complaint, every dismissed allegation, and she thought about how all of that was about to become public record. Because Diana Morrison didn't just want justice for herself. She wanted to change the system that made Sheriff Bradley Tucker possible. Morning came with fluorescent harshness. 7:15 a.m. Shift change. Sergeant Tom Braddock arrived for his day rotation. 35 years on the force. 62 years old. Retiring in 2 months. He'd survived 3 sheriffs and seen the department at its best and worst. He logged into the computer, reviewed overnight custody logs. His face changed as he scrolled. Tucker arrived at 7:40 a.m. Braddock met him at the door. "Brad, what the hell did you do?" "My job. Something you forgot how to do." Braddock held up his phone. "I have 47 missed calls. State Attorney General's Office, ACLU, Georgia, DOJ Civil Rights Division." He scrolled. The New York Times called. "Brad, the Times. Let them call. I didn't do anything wrong. You arrested a Columbia law professor for a parking violation that didn't exist. On camera. While she was measuring it. While she was showing you the ordinance." Braddock's voice climbed. "What were you thinking?" "I was thinking she needed to learn respect. She's about to teach you something a lot more expensive than respect." They brought Diana from the cell. She looked tired but composed. Her clothes pressed despite the circumstances. Her hair still neat. She moved like someone who'd spent worse nights and survived them. "I need to make a call to my office. I have a class at 2 p.m. Tucker laughed. Actually laughed. You're not making that class, Professor. Braddock stepped between them. Yes, she is. Because she's being released. Now. Like hell. Brad, shut up. For once in your life, shut up and listen. Braddock turned to Diana. You're free to go. No charges. Bail rescinded. We'll have your car brought around. Diana didn't move. I'd like to make that call first. Braddock gestured to the phone. Diana dialed. Put it on speaker without asking permission. Braddock nodded approval. Dean Robertson's office. Sarah, it's Diana. I'll need Professor Chen to cover my constitutional law seminar today. Dean Robertson picked up. His voice cracked with relief and rage. Diana, are you... The video... We've been trying to reach you since yesterday. I'm fine, but I need you to do something for me. Anything. The room went still. Tucker leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching Diana with narrowed eyes. Contact the 47 students in my seminar. Tell them their assignment is to research Magnolia Springs Ver. Thompson, 1987. She paused. Let that sink in. Then have them research every arrest Sheriff Bradley Tucker has made in the past 5 years. Robertson inhaled sharply. He understood immediately. Diana, I want a full civil rights audit. Cross-reference with demographics, arrest outcomes, complaint histories. We're making this a class project. Real-world application. Tucker pushed off the wall. You can't do that. That's harassment. Diana looked at him. Really looked at him. It's public records research. First Amendment protected activity. Would you like me to cite the relevant case law? Her finger hovered over the end call button. One more thing, Patrick. Have the students pay special attention to arrests in the upscale shopping district. I'm curious about the demographic breakdown. Consider it done. She hung up. The silence lasted 3 seconds. You think you're clever? Tucker said. I don't think. I know. Diana picked up her phone from the desk where Braddock had placed it. Scrolled through her contacts. Now I need to make one more call. She dialed. It rang twice. Southern Justice Coalition. Michelle Park speaking. Michelle, it's Diana. I need your litigation team. Michelle Park's voice went sharp. Professional. We're already mobilizing. The video's been viewed 2.3 million times. The board met at midnight. We're ready. I need more than litigation. I need a federal investigation. Tucker's face went white. Title 6, Compliance Review of Magnolia Springs Police Department. Pattern and Practice Investigation for Discriminatory Enforcement. And I need it filed before noon. Michelle didn't hesitate. You'll have it by 11. Tucker moved toward Diana. Braddock blocked him. One hand raised. Stop. You can't... Tucker started. Diana continued as if he hadn't spoken. The organization I'm calling has an annual litigation budget of $14 million. They've toppled police departments in cities 50 times this size. They have attorneys in 12 states, and they've been looking for a case exactly like this one. She ended the call. Looked at Tucker. I want to be clear about something, Sheriff. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for constitutional treatment. Every person you arrest deserves what I'm requesting. You're trying to destroy me. No, Sheriff. Extortion is when someone demands money or action through threats. I'm simply exercising my constitutional right to petition for redress of grievances. Her voice never rose, never sharpened. Each word landed like a legal brief. You taught me that last night. When you denied me food, medical accommodation, and basic dignity, you taught me exactly how far you'll go. She stepped closer. Tucker stepped back. Now I'm teaching you how far I'll go. Mayor Cunningham walked through the front door at 8:05 a.m., saw Diana, saw Tucker, read the room in one glance. "Mayor," Diana said, "I need to speak with you, because there's something you need to know about Magnolia Springs' liability insurance policy." Cunningham froze. "What about it?" "Specifically, the civil rights violation exclusions added in 2019, the ones that save you $17,000 annually in premiums. The ones that mean your insurance won't cover a single dollar of the lawsuit I'm about to file." Tucker grabbed the edge of a desk, his knuckles white. "What are you talking about?" Diana smiled. Not warmth. Knowledge. "Your insurance policy is public record, Sheriff. Filed with the State Insurance Commission. Available to anyone who knows where to look. And I know where to look." She turned to Cunningham. "Which means every dollar of the settlement or judgment will come from city funds. Your budget. Your reserves. Your taxpayers." Cunningham's jaw clenched. "How much are we talking about?" "Depends on what we find. Individual Section 1983 claims can run 6 figures. Compensatory damages, punitive damages, attorney fees, and if we establish a pattern of discrimination, if Sheriff Tucker has been doing this to other people, we're talking about a class action. Multiple plaintiffs. Multiple claims." She let that number hang in the air. 7 figures. Easily. Cunningham looked at Tucker. Then at Diana. Then back at Tucker. The calculation was visible on her face. The political math. The fiscal reality. The legal exposure. "There's a meeting," Diana said. "Today. Emergency session. Town council. You, Sheriff Tucker, your city attorney, and me. Because we're going to discuss terms." "Terms?" Tucker's voice cracked. "I'm giving you one chance to resolve this before it becomes federal. Before the DOJ gets involved. Before this becomes a years-long investigation that costs millions and destroys reputations." She picked up her briefcase. The one Tucker had kicked yesterday. Dusted it off. "The meeting is at 11. City Hall. Conference Room B. I'll see you there." She walked toward the door. Stopped. Turned back. "And Sheriff, I practice what I teach. When I tell my students that the law is a tool for justice, I mean it. When I say data is a weapon, I mean it. When I explain how to dismantle discriminatory systems, I mean it." Her hand was on the door. "You're about to learn the difference between enforcement and justice. It's a lesson my students get in a classroom. You're getting it in real time." She left. The door closed behind her. The room exhaled. Tucker sank into a chair. Braddock shook his head. Cunningham pulled out her phone. Started making calls. Emergency meeting. City attorney. Insurance liaison. Crisis management. Because this wasn't just about one arrest anymore. It was about every arrest. Every citation. Every complaint. Every dismissed allegation. Every person Tucker had stopped in 5 years of patrolling that shopping district. And a Columbia law professor with nothing to lose and everything to prove had just turned Sheriff Bradley Tucker's department into a case study. The kind that ends careers, changes policies, rewrites procedures. The kind that makes history. Diana walked to her car. It had been brought from impound. She sat in the driver's seat, checked her phone, texts from colleagues, calls from journalists, emails from former students offering help. She started the engine, checked the distance to the fire hydrant one more time. Still 18 feet. She'd been right all along, and she was just getting started. Conference Room B was designed for zoning disputes and budget meetings. Not this. Not dismantling a sheriff's career in 90 minutes. But here they were. The room seated 12. 7 showed up at 10:55 a.m. Mayor Beth Cunningham, 5 town council members including Elena Rodriguez, Sheriff Bradley Tucker, City Attorney Gordon Walsh, 2 phones on speaker, 1 connected to the insurance carrier, 1 to an independent consultant. Diana Morrison arrived at 10:58 a.m. She wore a navy suit, pressed, professional. She carried a leather portfolio and a tablet, set them on the table with deliberate care, sat down across from Tucker. "This meeting is being recorded," Cunningham said. "For legal purposes." Diana nodded. "Good. Transparency matters." Tucker stared at the table. He hadn't spoken since arriving. Walsh, the city attorney, looked like he hadn't slept. He probably hadn't. Cunningham started. "Sheriff Tucker, you arrested Professor Morrison yesterday for a parking violation that didn't exist." Tucker opened his mouth. Cunningham raised a hand. "I had Public Works measure at dawn. 18 feet, 4 inches. You need 15 feet. You were wrong." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. Diana opened her tablet. "Mayor, may I present evidence?" "Please." Diana turned the screen toward the center of the table. A spreadsheet appeared. Color-coded, cross-referenced, meticulous. These are 127 arrests Sheriff Tucker has made in the past 3 years within Magnolia Springs' upscale shopping district. Her finger traced the columns. 93 were black individuals. 22 were Hispanic. 12 were white. Councilmember Rodriguez leaned forward. "What's the demographic breakdown of that district?" "According to the 2020 census and updated retail surveys, the customer base is 73% white, 15% black, 12% Hispanic." The math was obvious. The disparity undeniable. Diana scrolled. "Arrest rates show black individuals are 6.2 times more likely to be arrested for minor violations in that district compared to white individuals committing the same offenses." Walsh's pen stopped moving. He'd been taking notes. Now he just stared. "Average bail set." Diana pulled up another column. $2,400 for black arrestees. $780 for white arrestees. Same violation categories. Tucker's jaw clenched. "Statistics can say anything you want them to. These statistics say you're running a racially disparate enforcement operation." Diana's voice never rose. "In civil rights law, we call this disparate impact. In plain English, we call it discrimination." She scrolled again. "Complaint resolution. 17 complaints filed against Sheriff Tucker by people of color in 3 years. 0 sustained. 3 complaints filed by white citizens. 2 resulted in retraining." Rodriguez inhaled sharply. "Gordon, is this accurate?" Walsh nodded slowly. "I'll need to verify the numbers, but the complaint records are consistent with what she's showing." Diana pulled up a new document. Legal exposure. Section 1983 liability. Both individual and municipal. Monell claims for municipal policy or custom violations. Qualified immunity is likely defeated by clearly established law. She looked at Tucker. "You can't claim you didn't know this was wrong, Sheriff. The law on discriminatory enforcement has been clear since the Civil Rights Act of 1964. 60 years of precedent." Walsh set down his pen. "Mayor, our insurance doesn't cover civil rights claims. That was part of the 2019 policy revision to lower premiums by $17,000 annually." The room went cold. "I know," Diana said. I read your insurance agreement. It's public record. Filed with the State Insurance Commission on March 14, 2019. Cunningham's face paled. How much are we talking about, Professor Morrison? Compensatory damages? Punitive damages? Attorney fees? For my claim alone, I'd estimate between $300,000 and $700,000. If we proceed to trial and establish intentional discrimination, we could see punitive damages exceeding $1 million. She paused. Let that number breathe. But here's what concerns me more. If my students complete their audit and we identify a pattern affecting dozens or hundreds of people over multiple years, we're discussing a class action lawsuit. Multiple plaintiffs. Multiple claims. Damages multiplying with each proven case. Diana pulled up a final document. I've calculated potential exposure based on similar cases. Magnolia Springs could face liability between $5 million and $12 million. The insurance representative's voice crackled through the phone speaker. I can confirm that none of those damages would be covered under the current policy. The municipality would be solely responsible. Cunningham looked at the budget documents Walsh had brought. The town's annual budget was $8 million. Reserves were $2 million. They couldn't survive a judgment like that. They'd have to cut services, fire personnel, potentially declare bankruptcy, all because of one sheriff's bias. Diana closed her tablet. But I'm not here to bankrupt Magnolia Springs. Tucker's head snapped up. Then what do you want? I want to change the system that made you possible. She opened her portfolio, removed a document, slid it across the table. These are my terms. Walsh pulled the document closer. Read aloud. Full public apology from Sheriff Tucker. Videotaped. Tucker's suspension pending independent investigation. Hiring of independent police auditor for 3-year period. Implementation of bias training. Body camera policy with all interactions recorded and immediately uploaded. Creation of Community Oversight Board with subpoena power. $50,000 donated to Southern Justice Coalition over 2 years. Tucker stood. You're trying to destroy me? Sit down, Sheriff, Cunningham said. I won't. Sit down. Tucker sat, his face red, his hands shaking. Diana leaned forward. No, Sheriff. I'm trying to correct you. Destruction would be easier. I could sue you personally. Target your pension, your assets, your home. She let that sink in. But that doesn't change systems. That just punishes one person. I want to change the system that allowed you to think what you did to me was acceptable. Rodriguez picked up the terms document. These seem reasonable, Mayor. More than reasonable, considering the exposure. Walsh nodded. Substantially less than litigation would cost. And if Professor Morrison follows through with a federal investigation, we're looking at years of oversight regardless. This way, we control the narrative. The insurance representative spoke again. From a risk management perspective, I strongly advise accepting these terms. Cunningham looked at Tucker. Brad, you have a choice. Accept these terms. Keep your pension. Keep your freedom. Or we go to trial, and you lose everything. Tucker's voice came out hoarse. You're letting her blackmail the department. This isn't blackmail, Walsh said. Blackmail involves threats for personal gain. These are settlement terms in anticipation of legitimate civil rights litigation. This is how the law works. Diana added quietly. And Sheriff, these terms aren't just about you. They're about the next person you stop, the next woman you arrest, the next black driver you pull over. I'm trying to make sure your mistakes don't become someone else's trauma. The room fell silent. The only sound was the hum of the ventilation system and the distant ringing of phones in the mayor's office. Journalists calling. Activists calling. Concerned citizens calling. Cunningham picked up the terms document. I'm calling a vote. All in favor of accepting Professor Morrison's terms? Rodriguez raised her hand. Then the others. 4 council members. Then 5. Motion carries. 5-0. Cunningham looked at Tucker. Brad, you're suspended. Effective immediately. 30 days. Pending independent investigation. Tucker's face went slack. Beth, you can't. I can. I should have done it years ago. This ends now. She turned to Diana. We'll accept your terms with one modification. The financial contribution will be $25,000, split over 2 years. Our budget can't sustain more without cutting essential services. Diana considered, nodded. Acceptable, but the oversight board must have real teeth. Subpoena power. Public reporting. Quarterly data releases. Agreed. Walsh began typing amendments into his laptop. The insurance representative confirmed the modified terms would resolve the immediate claim. Tucker sat frozen. The career he'd built over 28 years crumbling in real time. But he was still sitting there. Still collecting a pension. Still had a future. More than he'd given Diana yesterday when he slammed her against her car. The meeting ended at 12:27 p.m. Diana shook hands with Cunningham, with Rodriguez, with Walsh. She didn't offer her hand to Tucker. She walked out of City Hall into bright Georgia sunshine, pulled out her phone, sent a text to Dean Robertson. Settlement reached. System changes implemented. Class resumes Monday. His response came immediately. That's my colleague. That's my friend. That's my hero. Diana smiled, started her car, checked the distance to the fire hydrant one final time. Still 18 feet. She'd been right all along, and she'd just changed an entire police department to prove it. These are the beat stories that matter. The touching stories that remind us justice isn't given. It's fought for. City Hall steps. 3 p.m. Cameras from 4 news stations. Reporters from newspapers across Georgia. James Crawford stood in front, his phone ready for another live stream. Sheriff Bradley Tucker stepped to the microphone. He wore his uniform, full dress. His attorney had written every word he was about to say, every comma lawyered, every phrase sanitized. He unfolded the paper, read. Yesterday afternoon, I made errors in judgment regarding the arrest of Professor Diana Morrison. Upon review, I acknowledge measurement errors, escalation errors, and procedural oversights in how the situation was handled. The words came out flat, rehearsed. Legal armor against liability. James called from the front row. Say you were wrong about all of it. Tucker stopped, looked at his attorney. The attorney shook his head once. Don't. Tucker looked at Diana. She stood 10 feet away, arms crossed. She nodded once. Tucker folded the paper, went off script. I was wrong. About the parking. About the arrest. About... His voice caught. About how I treated Professor Morrison. The first genuine moment. The first crack in the armor. Diana approached the microphone after Tucker stepped away. She didn't touch it at first. Just stood there. Let the moment settle. I don't accept apologies that are legally mandated. I accept changed behavior. Her voice carried across the steps. Strong. Clear. Sheriff Tucker will have the opportunity to demonstrate that change. The entire Magnolia Springs Police Department will have that opportunity. Because this isn't just about one arrest. It's about a system that allowed it to happen. She stepped back. Didn't take questions. Didn't need to. The reforms would speak for themselves. Month 1 brought immediate changes. 24 body cameras ordered. Wolfcom brand. $847 per unit. Full shift recording. Immediate upload to cloud servers. Policy written by an ACLU consultant in 3 dense pages of specifics. When to activate. How to store. Who can access. Public records requests processed within 14 days. All officers retrained. 16 hours of classroom instruction. Bias recognition. De-escalation. Fourth Amendment basics that should have been memorized years ago. An outside firm handled it. No internal instructors. No letting officers train each other on the same mistakes. The complaint process was gutted and rebuilt. External review board. 30-day response requirement. No more complaints disappearing into Tucker's desk drawer. No more investigations conducted by the accused officer's friends. Data collection began. Race, gender, age, offense, location, time, officer, outcome. Every stop, every citation, every arrest. The data went into a public dashboard updated weekly. Month 3 saw structural changes. The Community Oversight Board was established on July 15th. 7 members. 4 civilians selected by lottery from applicant pool. 1 city council representative. 1 retired judge. 1 mayoral appointee. Subpoena, power over department records. Authority to compel testimony. Quarterly public reports mandatory. Dr. Raymond Foster was hired as independent auditor. He'd reformed Minneapolis PD after their own reckoning. 72 years old. No patience for excuses. His first audit took 6 weeks. His findings took 37 pages. 23 officers showed concerning patterns in arrest demographics. 4 placed on administrative duty pending further review, not including Tucker. He was already suspended. 3 officers were eventually terminated. Pattern violations. Sustained complaints. Evidence of discriminatory enforcement that couldn't be explained away. The union fought it. Lost. The data was overwhelming. Month 6 brought the Transparency Hub. The city launched Magnolia Transparency Hub on October 3rd. Real-time data. Traffic stops. Citations. Arrests. Sortable by location. Time. Officer. Demographics. Color-coded visualizations. Red for disparities exceeding 2:1. Yellow for disparities between 1.51 and 2:1. Green for proportional enforcement. The first week was a sea of red. Downloadable datasets for public analysis. Diana's law students downloaded them within an hour of launch. Ran their own audits. Published findings on a dedicated website. Quarterly reports comparing Magnolia Springs to state and national benchmarks. Month 12 showed results. Racial disparity in arrests decreased from 6.2 times to 1.8 times. Still work to do. Still unacceptable. But movement in the right direction. Complaints filed increased 300%. Not because behavior worsened, because trust improved. People believed complaints would be heard, investigated, sustained when warranted. Complaints sustained increased from 3% to 31%. Real consequences. Real accountability. 3 officers terminated. 7 suspended. 12 formally reprimanded. The thin blue line developed some cracks. Tucker completed bias training. Returned to administrative duties. Desk work. Paperwork. No patrol. No arrests. No contact with the public. A last chance agreement signed in his attorney's office. 1 more sustained complaint, and he was done. He showed up every day. Did the work. Kept his head down. 8 months post-incident, Diana visited unannounced. She found Tucker in his office, surrounded by files. He looked up, startled. "Professor Morrison, I didn't expect you." I wanted to see how the reforms were working. From your perspective. Tucker gestured to the chair across from his desk. She sat. I've been doing this job 28 years. I thought I was good at it. You were good at enforcement. You were terrible at justice. There's a difference. Tucker nodded slowly, opened a drawer, pulled out a stack of files, pushed them across the desk. Self-initiated review of my past arrests. Found 19 cases where I think I was wrong. Not legally wrong, but wrong. Diana picked up the top file. Read. A traffic stop from 2021. A black man. Arrested for failure to signal. Bail set at $1,500. The man missed 3 days of work. Lost his job. What are you going to do about them? Writing letters. Apologies. Can't fix everything, but it's a start. Diana set down the file. Sheriff, I didn't come here to destroy you. I came here because you destroyed yourself, and I decided whether you'd rebuild or rot. Tucker looked at her. Really looked at her. You gave me a hell of a choice. I gave you the same choice you gave me. Comply with the law or face consequences. You just weren't used to being on that end of it. She stood, offered her hand. Tucker shook it. Keep doing the work, Sheriff. That's how you earn redemption. Not through apologies, through changed behavior. She left his office, walked through the station, nodded at Sergeant Hendricks, now Deputy Chief Hendricks, saw the body camera charging stations, the new transparency posters, the complaint forms available in English and Spanish, small changes, systemic changes, the kind that last. 1 year later, Diana returned to Magnolia Springs, not as a defendant, not as a plaintiff, as a keynote speaker. The Georgia Association of Police Chiefs held their annual conference in Atlanta. They invited Diana to present Criminal Justice Reform, a Case Study. 300 attendees, police chiefs from 6 surrounding counties, commanders, training directors, people with power to change things. Sheriff Bradley Tucker sat in the second row. Voluntary attendance. He didn't have to be there, but he was. Diana stood at the podium, looked out at the sea of uniforms. Reform isn't about vengeance. It's about creating systems where my experience becomes impossible. She clicked through slides. Data from Magnolia Springs. Before and after. The disparities. The changes. The results. Magnolia Springs didn't change because one woman got arrested. It changed because one woman had resources to fight back. She paused. Let that reality settle. But what about the thousands who don't? The people arrested every day who can't afford attorneys, who don't know their rights, who don't have law degrees and professional networks. That's why systemic change matters. That's why body cameras matter. That's why oversight matters. She clicked to the final slide. Outcomes. 3 nearby towns adopted similar reforms. Georgia legislature considering statewide oversight board mandate. Diana scheduled to testify. Her case study taught at 14 universities nationwide. The video, 8.7 million views. 127 similar audits sparked across the country. 1 arrest, 1 woman. 1 refusal to accept injustice as inevitable. Legacy doesn't come from silence. It comes from speaking truth to power. These real-life stories, black stories of resistance and reform, they matter because they show what's possible when courage meets knowledge. The applause lasted 2 minutes. Tucker stood. Then others. Diana didn't smile. This wasn't about her. This was about the work. After the presentation, she drove back to Magnolia Springs. 1 last visit. James Crawford's antique store thrived. A new sign in the window, protected by justice. He'd never taken down the video. It was pinned on his social media. A reminder, a warning, a promise. Deputy Chief Marla Hendricks ran the department now. First black woman to hold that position in Magnolia Springs history. She implemented monthly community forums, open dialogue, no questions off limits. Deputy Chen led the bias training program, developed curriculum used across 3 counties, found his voice, found his purpose. Tucker remained on administrative duty. Eligible for retirement in 18 months. He'd take it. Leave the job. Leave the regrets. Try to leave the person he'd been. Diana stood outside City Hall one final time. Looked at the steps where Tucker apologized, where the cameras gathered, where change began. Her phone buzzed. A text from a student. "Professor, our latest audit of Magnolia Springs. Disparity down to 1.4x. Progress." She smiled. Typed back. "Keep monitoring. Progress isn't permanent. Vigilance is." She got in her car. Checked the fire hydrant distance one last time. Still 18 feet. Still legal. Still proof she'd been right from the beginning. But being right wasn't enough. She'd had to fight for it. Document it. Litigate it. Reform it. And now it was your turn. Have you witnessed injustice that went unchallenged? Share your story in the comments below. Not for sympathy, for solidarity. Because every story of abuse unpunished is a blueprint for the next victim. If Diana's story moved you, share this video. Tag someone who needs to see that resistance isn't futile. It's essential. Subscribe for more stories of everyday people who refuse to accept injustice as inevitable. Diana had a law degree, resources, and platform. Most people don't. That's not a reason for despair. It's a reason to build systems where everyone has the protection Diana had to fight for herself. What will you do with that knowledge?